Time now for today's perspective. Well, they make up just 1% of the world's population, but produce more pollution than the poorest 50%. The rich are racing through Earth's finite carbon budget, which scientists warn could run out within a decade. That's the warning of a new report from Oxfam. We can speak now to Climate and Energy Advocacy Manager at that NGO, Armelle Le Comte, to find out a bit more. Ms. Le Comte, thanks for your time. The statistics are certainly stark.
Good morning.
Can you tell us a bit more about them and how this conclusion was reached?
Yes, it is indeed shocking revelation from this report, and exactly as you said, we've seen that the overconsumption of a wealthy minority is fueling the climate crisis. And what we did for this report is that we took consumption emission and we attribute consumption emission associated with goods and services that are consumed in a particular country. So, for instance, if a TV is produced in China but exported to France, then all the emissions produced to make that TV are allocated to France. And so we took all those emissions and we allocated them to individuals within those countries based on revenues. And what we see is that as people income increase, so do their emission footprint, and the result is that indeed the richest 1% was responsible for more than twice as much carbon pollution as the poorest 50% people in the planet. That means 1% is twice as much than 3 billion people.
So increased income means increased consumption, means more pollution, and it looks like we're going completely in the wrong direction when you look at your report, because not only are you saying it's the rich that are polluting more, the carbon dioxide emissions up 60% in the 25-year period studied.
Yes, the period we chose to look at is interesting because in 1990 it was the first report by the IPCC, so the scientific body from the UN looking at climate change. So it means that in 1990 we already knew about climate change, and 2015 is when countries signed the Paris Agreement just 5 years ago. And during that period, the amount of carbon dioxide emitted in the atmosphere doubled. It means that during those 25 years, we emitted the same amount of carbon dioxide as the previous 140 years, and the half of those emissions came from the richest 10%. And so it shows that it's really this wealthy minority which is driving climate change.
So do you think carbon taxes should be put more on rich people, or were carbon taxes the idea as somewhat of a mistake, as the rich people and countries can simply buy them and aren't really paying real heed to the actual crisis?
Yeah, well, the urgency that we see, just this morning we heard that the Arctic sea ice is shrinking to near record low, and so it's not just moral outrage at this wealthy minority, but it's also the urgency to act. And so we need government to seize the opportunity of post-COVID-19 bailout to tackle inequality and climate crisis at the same time. And so yes, we need government to both reduce the richest emission, and so it means taxes, it means bans on carbon luxury goods like SUVs, for instance, or frequent flights. Transport is the biggest driver of the richest emission. So we need to see that, but we also need government to invest massively in public services, in low carbon sector like public transport, like energy renewable energy, because we need to see change everywhere, but we need to see radical change in the way the richest live in the world.
Indeed, high flyers, literally then what you're saying, a very big a part of the problem. But the other side of the coin is a lot of the poorer countries in general use up more and more fossil fuels. So I imagine action needs to be taken on that level as well.
Yes, of course. As I said, we need to see radical changes from everyone, not just in the richest country, although they need to make the most changes, but also it's important to support the poorer economies to develop in a sustainable way. And so it means that, especially if you look at Africa, for instance, there's a huge potential in terms of renewable energy, in terms of solar and wind-related energy. And so we need to support those countries to develop in a sustainable way that will allow us to limit global warming below 1.5 degrees, which is enshrined in the Paris Agreement. So financial support from the richest economy to poorer economy is also crucial.
Indeed, this Paris Agreement that the US officially leaves as of November, what difference will that lead to? I mean, it's one of the biggest polluters in the planet. Targets have regularly been set internationally and they've regularly been missed.
Yes, it's true. And when you look at where we are 5 years after the Paris Agreement, it's not a very cheerful moment, to be honest. And the fact that for the past 4 years the US have, even if they're still officially part of the Paris Agreement, have not taken seriously climate change in the US. When you look at what's happening in California, in Florida, this is a major problem. But other countries should not, use this as a reason for not acting. So the result of the US election is obviously going to be crucial in terms of the momentum that it can set. And so we know that in the lead up to the Paris Agreement, the relationship between China and the US was crucial to create that momentum in other regions of the world. So it's true that it's going to be an important moment, but other country, other region, for instance, the European Union, can already act and take the right decision in terms of where they decide to, in which sector they decide to support in this moment.
Finally, how large do you see the weight of individual action in all of this? On one hand, it seems like such a tiny drop in the ocean of it all.
Well, individual choices are important and can make a difference. If we decide to fly less, if you decide to cycle to go to work, if you live in a city, that can actually make a difference. But it's not enough. The urgency shows us that we need systemic changes, and that's why we can't simply reboot our economies like before COVID-19, and we need government to seize this opportunity to actually reshape our economy to benefit all of us. And so that's why we need investment in public services, in low carbon sectors. Individual choices matter, but they are not going to be enough.
Armelle Le Comte of Oxfam France, thanks very much indeed for taking time out to speak to us here on France 24.
Thank you.
You're watching Live